Okay. Uh, book talk number 5. Pretty sure. One, two, three, five. 5. I think today's book talk is gonna be focusing on the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. So I think in the Foundation, I'm pretty sure because it shows in the front page. There are 7 books in the series. 2 of them are prequels, and I think the 5 later ones are um, the main story. So I read the main story. I'm probably not gonna read this prequels, but maybe I will down the line. Okay, so I'll show you. I'll show you what I got. Uh, um, Second foundation, foundation, earth, foundation, in that order. Okay, check it out. Pretty good. Um, Foundation's edge. Okay, so I guess how I want to do this is I might start off from Foundation, which is the first book in the series, and then just. So how I might want to start from here is show you the first book in the series, Foundation, and just go from there, I guess. Um, I guess I bought the book because I thought the cover art was really beautiful, like really, really classy and retro and just vintage, I guess. I really liked it. So the Foundation series, little bit about backstory, and the author writes about it himself, but I'm pretty sure he wrote the first 3 books in the series in his 20s, maybe, and he wrote them in his 20s, I think. And then I think he went on a bit of a hiatus, and then he must have wrote. I think he said he wrote the 4th book in the series, which is um, Foundation's Edge. Maybe when he was 40, I guess, and then he would have wrote the last one 6 years later after that one. So there's a pretty big time gap between the books. The first 3 books won the Hugo Award for Best Sci-Fi Series, just the first 3 books, and then I think people really wanted him to make a sequel for those 3 books, and then he wrote the 4th one, and then he ended the whole series with the 5th one. Okay, okay. So, Foundation Book One. Uh, I like the series. I think, but it took me like 2 months to read these 5 books, and I read a lot of books this year, but like, I don't know. I just kind of want to read something else now, if I'm being honest. So I read book one, and so book one really revolves around. I'm pretty sure his name is Harry Seldon, and he is like this guy who's a psychohistorian, and he can predict people's movement, like big like population thinking, and how that thinking might evolve as. So there's this empire that spanned about 20,000 years, pretty much, and it's really interesting. And then the empire is pretty much dying off now. They're not going to be an empire anymore. So what's going to either happen is there are 2 options now. One is the empire dies off, which is inevitable, and it was a 20,000 year long empire, but now there's gonna be 30,000 years of barbarianism that's gonna have to happen after. Or what Harry Seldon did, is make a 1,000 year plan, and at the end of the 1,000 years, they build a second empire, um, and which is gonna be better than the first one. So that was the whole gist of the whole book, the whole series. So that's the whole gist of it. And how he did that was um, he built 2 foundation. He built 2 foundation called, which is pretty much 2 separate colonies that is supposed to make the plan come true. And the first one is the most obvious one, and what he did was he sent a bunch of these engineers and mechanics and all the smartest people to this one galaxy, like one planet, all the way at the edge of the galaxy. And then he said he built a second foundation, but then he never shows he never tells anyone where he placed the second foundation at. So that's pretty important to the whole series. And and I think the thing that's most important, most interesting about the book is because it spans over 1,000 years. Technically, it's like constant time skips. So in the first book, 50 years from now, 50 years passes on, and then now, Foundation has been developed, and it's been developing, and has all these engineers, and they have the most smartest people in the galaxy. So they're actually more technologically advanced than anyone else. They got like nuclear weapons and stuff. Um, and yeah, and I'm happy to go into the second book now because it's kind of important. So the second book, Foundation and Empire, and then the third book is Second Foundation. The second book, Foundation and Empire in the series, that kind of revolves around more so, I guess, uh, it revolves more around how the Foundation place, the planet, managed to survive for the next 200 years, I guess, for the initial 200 years, because they have neighboring kingdoms and stuff. And in the first three books, it actually emphasized really deeply on like religion and technology and empires, and a lot of invading, and a lot of invasion, and just like people fighting each other. And there's these people called the traders who trades weapons or devices made by the Foundation with other like civilizations, or other people. And then they're sort of more like cowboys in the series. They're more like Han Solo in Star Wars, where they travel through the galaxy, and they're more like roguelike, and they go after, and they kind of fight people. They're just out for themselves, kind of thing. And so you have the traders, and you have these empires, and then they defeat their neighboring kingdoms, who's sending troops and stuff out towards them by influencing them through religion. And the religion is really the Foundation's technology, which is so advanced that they think it's magic. So that's sort of what the first three books revolved around. Second Foundation, and and that's what the first, and then that's pretty much what the first two books actually revolved around. Empires, magic, traders, just all this cool stuff. And then by now it's been 200 years, right? So the third book, Second Foundation, what that revolves around is halfway through the book, uh, you have this person called the Mule. Um, and the Mule is really interesting. And so what happens is this person called the Mule comes around. This is 300 years after the development of the Foundation. And the Mule is this mutant in the series where it's a genetic anomaly nobody ever predicted. So, because the Harry Seldon's plan is meant to predict human behavior as a mob over however long period, a mutant, a genetic anomaly to come out about was just completely out of the plan. And what the mutant can do is it can influence like whole populations, like mentality, emotion, and everything like that. So the mule actually went out, tricked a few Foundationer citizens because they're considered first class citizens. With like they have like immunity for everything. And what the mule did was he actually went out to take over the galaxy pretty much, and take over the Foundation, and just, I don't know, it was a bit of an anomaly. And they put a stop to him. And then the second Foundation actually put a stop to him. So we're talking about the first Foundation this whole time, who's genetically, technologically advanced. They're taking down their neighboring kingdoms, and they got traders who's doing all this. They're like cool Han Solo pretty much. But then the second Foundation, but then now the first Foundation is defeated by the mule because he's a genetic anomaly, and he can influence people's emotion and thinking patterns. But the thing is, the second Foundation comes about, and what the second Foundation can do is Whereas in the first foundation, they put all the most advanced engineers and all the most advanced mathematicians there. In the second foundation, they put all the most advanced psychohistorians and psychologists there. So they can actually influence minds themselves, the second foundation. And they're more concerned about maintaining the plan, while the first foundation is more concerned about advancing, just constantly advancing, taking over kingdoms, taking over the galaxy wherever they can. And and the second foundation is really crucial to the story because they kind of are the people who kind of draw the strings and stuff. So they're like, all right, we got to put an end to the mule, and then they do end up doing that. And and I guess I'm still on book three, and I guess so. All that happened, the mule's been stopped, and and everybody knows the second foundation definitely exists now, and that they put a stop to the mule. So what they did was so now the first foundation is like, hang on a minute, we've been doing all of this, fighting all these people, and this second foundation gets to just stay back, just don't get invaded, and they get to just control everything. Is that what happens? So everyone was kind of pissed off about it, and they're like, we need to destroy the second foundation. So technically the first foundation and the second foundation are at war. So what the second foundation do is they create this elaborate scheme where and this is, by the way, like full on spoilers. Like if you're considering reading the series, I recommend you. I suggest that you don't really, because I'm bad to spoil everything pretty much. But I'll just give. But I'm also giving like a very summarized, description of everything. So if you really want to read it, definitely read it, no matter what I say, because it's so good. It is pretty good, and I'm not really spoiling everything because I skimmed over so much cool stuff. But it's what it is, because it took me 2 months to read the five books, so it definitely takes a while. And cool. So the second foundation builds this elaborate plan, and they trick the first foundation into thinking they captured and eliminated second foundation, which they technically did. And then now the first foundation thinks they won against the second foundation. But then, really, the second foundation is still there, and everything's all good. And the reason why they made them think that they won is because the first foundation, the plan can't succeed if the first foundation thinks they're being influenced. So now because they have to act accordingly from individual agency kind of thing. So it's this whole thing, it's this whole psychohistorical thing kind of thing going on. Well, anyways, now we're on book four. Book four is Foundation's Edge. Foundation's Edge, which is a lot thicker. And the first three books that I was telling you about is separate to the last two technically, because they were written, I think, in his 20s or something. And the second two was written like 20, 30 years after the fact. And these three books won the Hugo Award for best sci-fi history of all time, just because they're pretty good. So I have to tell you, the next two kind of differ a lot. They don't talk about religion anymore. They don't talk about the traders anymore. They don't talk about the mule anymore. It just changes a lot. Just the story kind of goes like crazy bonkers. Like I don't know. Um, okay, Foundation's Edge. So Foundation's Edge is really cool because now it's like 500 years down the line, and this book actually starts off with the fact that they still think the second foundation exists, even though in book three, they think they eliminated the second foundation. So the whole gist of the story is that they want to send them out and actually send somebody out and destroy the second foundation. So they send this one guy out who's been exiled, and they send him out with a scholar who studies Earth and mythology. And what he does is they send them out, and then they go on this really elaborate search, and this whole thing happens. I'm just gonna skip everything, and then I'm just gonna say that by the end of the book, you have the people they sent out initially to destroy the second foundation, but then they're on this planet called Gaia, who's like a living organism planet. Every person on the planet is connected to each other, and it's really interesting. And then you have this scholar, what's his name? And you have the scholar there with him. And then you have the mayor of the foundation, who's technically like queen of like the whole place pretty much, and she's like super powerful. So you have the second, and then you have the second foundation person there. So you have Gaia, a living organism. You have the person they sent out to destroy the second foundation. You have the second foundationer there, and you have the mayor of the first foundation, all colliding at one moment at the end of this book. And it's a big moment because it's a pretty thick book, and right at the end they all collide together. Uh, and the reason why they collide is because the person they sent out is considered a person who makes the correct decision, just magically makes the correct decision. So he has to decide whether we follow Hari Seldon's original 1,000-year plan and make a second empire, or we just discard the whole plan and then go about just creating an empire regardless of the plan, because they're so technologically advanced. This first foundation can do that now. And the third option is make Gaia. You know how Gaia is like a living organism and everybody's connected somehow, and they all share memories and all share emotions. Like there's like a billion population and they can all do the same thing, but they're all sort of individual but sort of connected. Well, the third option is to make the whole galaxy like Gaia. And the person, his name is Treves. Treves decides to go with making the whole universe one organism. Everybody's connected somehow. And that's it. That's book 4 done. So it's like a big jump and it gets a bit crazy. And I just recently finished Foundation and Earth, which is the 5th book in the series. It's the last one. Okay, so this last one was pretty interesting because the whole gist of it is he wants to figure out why he decided to make the whole universe one organism, and to do that he believes he needs to get to Earth, and everybody knows that Earth is destroyed or something like that. So him, the original scholar, and this girl that the scholar is now dating from Gaia go out on a journey, and it's a whole thing, and they go onto this planet. And it's pretty much this dystopian planet. It's cold. It's kind of like Russia, pretty much, or North Korea. And then they go to another planet, and they got dogs over there, and they get chased by the dogs, and that's interesting. And then they go to another planet, and this planet is degrading, and the whole thing's happening. And they go to this another planet called Solaria, which is like a spacer world. And then it's like the original, they're traveling through the original 50 worlds inhabited by Earth, which is destroyed later on. And then the rest of the galaxy has been formed. And it's a whole thing. You got to read the book to really get a good grasp of it. And then they go to Solaria. And then that's where they have only 1,200 people throughout the whole population in the whole world. And the reason why is they somehow conjoined scientifically women and men into being one thing. One person, which is just like they just wanted, they didn't want to be interacting with people pretty much, and that's why they did that. So they can actually produce eggs and fertilize eggs just with one body, which is crazy, right? Anyways, the whole thing happens. It's a whole thing. And then they kill the guy they were invited by, and then they just steal a kid with them, and now it's the kid, the girl, the scholar, and then the guy. So it's the 4 of them traveling through space. They go to this second Earth place called the Second Earth, which is pretty much a water world. But then they got like a small island there, and then the whole thing happens, and apparently they get poisoned, and now they got to run away. And then finally, they actually get to Earth, but then Earth is actually radioactive, like everybody's been saying it is. And then at the end, you have, and then so they're like, oh crap, what do we do now, guys? What should we do now? And they're thinking about it. They're kind of disputing with each other. The whole thing is going on. And it turns out they're like, actually, hang on a minute. Let's go to the moon. And they go to the moon. And on the moon is this guy who's 20,000 years old, and he's actually a robot. And the thing with Isaac Asimov, the author, he writes a lot about robots in general. So the story actually revolves a lot around robots. And the robot that they encounter at the end of the book, in the 5th book in the series, the very end, the robot they encounter is 20,000 years old. And apparently he built Gaia, and he built like the whole library scheme, and he built the Hari Seldon plan. So he was actually the mastermind of everything, and he's 20,000 years old. And yeah, so his plan was to pretty much make everyone a single living organism. Everybody's connected, and our character agrees with that. And the reason why they bring them to the Mars is because he's the 20,000-year-old robot is dying, and he wants to conjoin his brain with the child that they have, which is the woman and man combined child. So he can live up to like she can live up to like 400 years, pretty much, because she's not like a normal human being, pretty much. She's like a genetic anomaly as well. They like genetically modify it so that she's like one person. And yeah, he wants to conjoin his brain with hers, and then she's cool with it because she considers the other one her parent figure. So now the 20,000-year-old robot can live a little longer, and it's just the whole thing. And then yeah, all right, hang on a minute. And I guess the book Foundation and Earth, and the book pretty much ends with that. The book pretty much ends with that. Um, let me just just get my thoughts going in order. All right, give me 2 seconds. Let me check how long the video is going for. Okay, 21 minutes the video's been going for. So I got like 4 or 5. I don't want to let the video drag on for too long, so I'll go on for another 4 minutes or if max. But yeah, now so pretty much Trevius decides that okay, it is the right choice to make the whole planet, the whole galaxy, one organism, and everybody's connected. And I guess the reason why is um because there are other galaxies out there and other universes out there that they've never encountered, and in their galaxy, in his Foundation series, there's only one galaxy with the one humans beings and there's no aliens involved. But then they don't know if there's other aliens out there who could invade them one day. So if they can get there before them and then become one organism, and if anybody does try to invade them, they can fight back as one people, then that's very beneficial. So that's pretty much the conclusion of the whole series. If we can just stop with the conflict, become one organism, and then if there's invaders one day, we can fight back against them, then that'd be a good thing, kind of thing. So that's the conclusion, and that's the Foundation series for you. Uh, I have a few things that I would like to mention. One, I'm pretty happy that I got it finished now. I can finally read other books, which I'm pretty happy about. I've actually bought a few books since then, and I love to read them. Because reading the one series for however long gets, because I'm only getting influenced by these books, and it's sort of got the same themes and the same ideas, and it's just one person writing them. While I like to read individual books because it's just constantly something new, and that's why I like reading so much. Yeah, but this definitely took me a while, and I'm happy I read it, and I've been meaning to read a series for a while, and I thankfully read a pretty good series, so I'm really happy about it. But other than that, I don't know. Interesting. This is probably the only series that I've ever read in my life. I think never really read any other book series ever. I've always read individual books. I'm pretty sure. I think a few things I want to mention is I think Bliss, the girl character at the end, she's a really good female character in the series, but there's the first 3 books pretty much there's like no lead woman characters at all. Like the first book literally has not one woman character, which is so stupid. I think, and I like it, just the whole book lacks like any female characters. And he towards this 5th book, he's probably the guy who wrote it is probably a lot older now. He's probably near 50 or in his 50s, and he just starts sexualizing women and stuff. And then it's cool, which is normal, it's fine, but it's just like there's not very many empowering female characters, and he doesn't really write very many of them, and then the few times that he does, he kind of makes them like more erotic or anything. So i am so i do think that is like a reflection of the author's sort of personal life. I guess he's not been around very many women is sort of what I've sort of deduced from his writing, because he writes a lot about men, but then like I don't know. And literally in the first 3 books, a few times that he did mention women, it was like something to do with household chores and stuff. And and honestly, I like there was a few moments in this like I've liked the series a lot, but there's a few moments where I was just like, dude, I'm probably gonna stop reading because just I don't want to read like just it's gotta have a fucking diversity. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gotta have diversity. It needs to have a lot of empowering characters. But if the all the if like 80% of the characters are men and then like and you know like and the women aren't like portrayed as empoweringly, then it's just like, dude, what are you doing? You know? There is a few, but man, just like there's not very many. So there was a lot of moments where I did question it, but I think by book 5 there was a good balance, but I think the first few books just didn't have any. And I was just like, all right, cool. I guess that's that. Um so I did think that was like a personal flaw in him and which showed in his writing is what I deduced. That was my conclusion of Isaac Asimov. Um cuz yeah, I think if I were to write Woman, I wouldn't really write it the way he did. But I'll do it and then I'll show you, I think. Um, so yeah, Foundation and Earth. Foundation's Edge, Second Foundation, Foundation and Empire, Foundation. Cool. It was a really nice series and I really liked it. Like the positives were definitely positive and it was really interesting to read. And the cover art's so cool and I'm just it's cool. It's been cool. But yeah, definitely was planning. I've been planning on making a video on this, and I'm finally over it now. I'm over with it now because I can finally start other books. So I'm pretty happy about this. I'm gonna start my next book tomorrow probably. Yeah, which is pretty cool. Um, I guess that's it. I guess I'm not sure what else to say. Cool book. Uh, what else should I say? But yeah, that is book talk number 5. And then I'll read a few more books and make a book talk number 6, I suppose. And you can find out what sort of books I read. I would love to like reread a few books I read in the past few years because I do read a book and I don't read it again. Yeah, I kind of do the same thing with movies. I watch a movie and don't really watch a movie again because there's so much out there. There's so much out there now. I can't imagine like 100 years from now when there's even more out there, right? Even more good movies out there. Like there's gonna be so much good things that people will just miss. But that's just how life is, I guess. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it there. And cool. Thanks for listening if you did.